5 love languages.
There's 5 of them?
Listening,
I'd say like touch, verbal, I don't know,
empathy, compromise, and Polish.
Well, it's great to see you here. I hope you enjoyed the session last time. And what we're going to do in the next 5 sessions is dig into each of the 5 love languages in a little deeper way. So hopefully we're going to have some fun together, and hopefully we're going to learn how to speak all 5 love languages. Now, you know, we want to give heavy doses of the primary love language, but we want to learn how to speak all 5 of them. Because once you give your spouse heavy doses of their primary, then you sprinkle in the other 4 and you get additional credit. So we want to have a full love tank, okay? So we're going to focus each session on a different love language, and today we're going to focus on words of affirmation. Giving your spouse words that affirm them, that build them up. You know, last week we talked about compliments as one of the ways to do that. Mark Twain once said, "I could live 2 months on a good compliment." I guess if you took Twain literally, 6 compliments a year is all he would need. But if your spouse's love language is words of affirmation, I can tell you this, they're going to need more than 6 a year, okay? Charlie Shedd once said that he gave his wife a different compliment every day for a year. How do you do that? Huh? I guess you could say one day, you know, your left eye is beautiful. Your right eye is beautiful. Your 2 eyes together are beautiful. But I wonder what would happen if we really learned how to give compliments. Last week I gave you a couple. For example, you look nice in that outfit. Ooh, do you ever look tough tonight? Did you try that one on this week, ladies? All right. But there's lots of other compliments. You know, you've got to be the greatest potato cook in the world. I love these potatoes. Honey, I appreciate you washing the dishes. Yeah, I really appreciate your walking the dog tonight. Thanks for lining up the babysitter. I don't take that for granted. I really appreciate your doing that. Hey, darling, the yard looks great. I mean, just words of affirmation. There's scores of things that happen every day that we can compliment our spouse on. And it's one of the dialects of words of affirmation, is giving compliments. It would be interesting to know what would happen in all of our homes if every day we gave each other a compliment. You might try that this week, okay? But there's other dialects of words of affirmation. One dialect is encouraging words. The word encourage means to instill courage. You know, all of us, or most of us, have ideas that have been rolling around in our mind, sometimes for years, things that we would really like to do, but we've never quite had the courage to do it. Maybe you'd like to write a magazine article, and you've got little articles all around the house that you've been writing, but you've never submitted one. Or maybe you would like to learn to ski, or lose weight, or finish college. And sometimes it's just a word of encouragement from your spouse. Let's say, for example, you've always wanted to have a magazine article published, and you've got all these little articles around the house. And one day your spouse picks up one of them and reads it, and then says to you, "Honey, this is great. I really like this. You need to submit this." And his comment is what gave you the courage to send it in and to submit it. Yeah, maybe you get a rejection slip, then you get discouraged, and you need another word of encouragement from him. Or you know, the whole thing of weight loss. Now let's keep in mind, when I say encourage them, you're encouraging them to do something that they want to do. Sometimes we encourage people to lose weight, and they haven't mentioned losing any weight. That wasn't their desire to lose weight. And we say, "Honey, I think you ought to lose weight." You know, and that comes across as condemnation. But if they say, "You know, I've just got to lose some weight," and then you said something like, "Well, you know, honey, I'll tell you one thing. If you enrolled in that program, you'd be a success. Because one of the things I like about you is when you start something, you always finish it. Wow. Now that's encouragement. Or to say, you know, honey, don't let money be a problem. I mean, if you really want to do that, we will find the money to do it. And that word of encouragement gives them the courage to do what they've wanted to do. So encouraging words can make a big difference in a marriage relationship. One of the other dialects of words of affirmation is kind words. Now this has to do with the manner in which we speak. Proverbs 15:1 says, "A soft answer turns away wrath." You know, we don't have to scream at each other. Screaming is a learned phenomena, and it can be unlearned. We can say anything we want to say softly. You know, we can even say negative things softly. We can say, honey, I want to share this with you. I really felt hurt tonight when you didn't volunteer to help me. Now, that's a negative statement. You know, you're complaining, but you said it in a kind way. It'd be far different if you went in there and said, you don't ever help me. I don't know, I can't count on you for anything. You know, I mean, there's a kind way to even make complaints. You know, the tone of voice often makes the difference. You know, the husband who says, okay, I'll take the garbage out if you get off my back. I'm sorry, guys, but you don't get credit for that. That is not kind, you know? I mean, you may as well let the ants take the garbage out. You know, if you're going to take the garbage out, why not say, you know, honey, I'd love to take the garbage out for you. I mean, you know, let's get credit for what we do, guys. Let's speak kindly when we do. And ladies, I'm speaking to you as well, you know, because ladies can speak unkindly to their husbands. You speak softly to him, and the tone of voice has a lot to do with whether it comes across as being a kind word and thus an affirming word, or whether it comes across as a condemnation of your spouse. Another dialect of words of affirmation is humble words. You remember 1 Corinthians 13? It says of love, love is humble. The best way I know to describe this is to say love makes requests, not demands. Love says, honey, you think it'd be possible for you to clean the gutters this weekend? That's a request. You know, love doesn't say, if you don't clean the gutters soon, they're going to fall off the house. They've already got trees growing out of them. Love says, honey, you know those apple pies you make. Would it be possible for you to make an apple pie this week? It's a request. Love doesn't say, hadn't had an apple pie since the baby was born. Don't guess I'm going to get any more apple pies for 18 years. Now, doesn't that motivate you? If you had a pie, you'd throw it at him. You know, love makes requests. Words of affirmation make requests. When you make a request of your spouse, it communicates their worth and their abilities. I mean, they have the ability to make a pie, and you're acknowledging that ability to clean the gutters or make a pie or anything else. When you make a request, you are affirming them. And it also brings in the element of choice. They have a choice to grant your request or not to grant your request. Remember, love is always a choice. If you demand something of your spouse, what happens is you become the parent and your spouse becomes a child. And that's not a good marriage. But if you request something of your spouse, you have given them information as to what would make you feel loved. And now they have a choice. They can bake the pie or not bake the pie. But at least you've given them information. And if you expect them to do everything you request, then you're trying to manipulate them. And that's not love either. Love is giving information, and then if they choose to love, they choose to make the pie or do whatever else it is. So, humble words. We're not here demanding things of each other. In a good marriage, we don't make demands. We make requests. From time to time, people say to me, you know, Gary, I'm just not a words person. I mean, I have a hard time giving words of affirmation. I didn't receive them growing up, and I have a hard time. So I want to give you some ideas on how to learn to speak words of affirmation to your spouse. My first suggestion is make a list of things you like about your spouse. I'm sure we can all find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 things we like about our spouse. Just make a list of them. Then you write one sentence, write it out, one sentence expressing appreciation for those things. Like, honey, I really appreciate your taking the garbage out every day without my asking you. Or, honey, I really appreciate the way you keep yourself looking so nice. That cost me a lot of money, but I like. No, don't put that. Don't put that. Leave that one out. Okay, but you write out one sentence expressing appreciation for that thing that you like about your spouse, and then you pick out one of them and stand in front of the mirror, and you say it to yourself, out loud. You read it out loud, and then you walk in the room where they are one day when they're looking in another direction, and you say. You've already got it memorized now. You say, honey, I don't think I've told you this lately, but you're the greatest wife in the world. And you run. You run. And then she says to herself, did I hear what I think I hear? She hears it. It rings in her mind, the affirmation you gave her. And it wasn't too bad for you because you ran. You got out of the room. But you've broken the barrier. You've said something. And the next time it'll be easier, and the third time it'll be easier. You learn to express words of affirmation by doing it. Now, people say to me sometimes, well, Gary, I don't know, how do you come up with the ideas on what to say? Well, I'll give you another idea. Get you a notebook, a words of affirmation notebook, and when you hear other people, when you're around other couples and you hear them affirm each other, they say a nice thing about each other, you write it down. And if you didn't quite get it, you walk up to them and say, tell me again, what did you just say to her? And you write it down. And one thing you do, you impress the guy. You're taking him down. You're going to quote him. Huh? So you listen to other people. Another thing you can do is when you read magazine articles, there's, particularly articles on relationships, you'll find some statements in those articles that you like. You write them down. Or if you read a book, you write down the things you hear people saying. And you make a list of all these things. And then you can do the same thing you did with the other. You can stand in front of the mirror. You can read these things out. I'll give you another idea. You can go to a card shop. All those cards, they got wonderful love sayings in there, And you can just write them down in a little notebook. Now, you ought to change a word here or there so you don't get involved in plagiarism. And certainly don't publish these things as being your own, okay? But you can write them down. And then you can adapt them a little bit, and you can use them. And another way to do it is you can actually write a little love note to your spouse. Some people find it easier to write than they do to speak, so you can write a little love note. Now, if you've taken heavily from Hallmark, you might put at the bottom, taken from Hallmark, okay, without permission, okay? But don't ever publish it now. Don't ever publish it. All right. So we accumulate these words, and we begin to say them to our spouse, and the more you say them, the easier it is to do it. The fact is, anyone can learn how to speak words of affirmation. We have to start where we are, and if it's very, very hard for you, then I've given you some ideas to start on the bottom step, and you begin to work your way up and learn how to give words of affirmation. But if this is your spouse's primary love language, then I'm telling you, you really need to learn how to speak this language, because your spouse will never have a full love tank if you don't learn how to give words of affirmation. You can work yourself to death doing acts of service, and they still won't feel love. They're waiting for those words of affirmation. This happens to be my love language, and my wife, after 40 plus years of marriage, is really good at this. She tells me periodically how great I am, what a wonderful husband I am, and da-da-da-da. And I know half of it's not totally true, but I sure like to hear it. Words of affirmation is a powerful communicator of love.